I used to believe my thoughts were private, not secret, not meaningful, just contained, like breath held behind closed lips. Mine, and only mine. That belief lasted most of my life. It ended the night I realized some of my thoughts arrived already knowing how I felt about them. I'm not saying I hear voices. That's important. I want that clear from the beginning. Voices imply sound, external vibration, something that moves air. This wasn't that. These thoughts didn't sound different. They didn't interrupt me mid sentence or announce themselves like intruders. They slipped in naturally, dressed in my own inner voice, carrying my tone, my vocabulary, my rhythm. The only difference was they knew things I hadn't decided yet. At first, it was subtle enough to dismiss. I'd be making coffee in the morning, watching steam curl upward from the mug when a thought would form fully in my mind. You're already tired. Not an observation, not a guess, a conclusion. And my body would respond before I had time to disagree or agree. Shoulders slumping, breath deepening, fatigue settling in like it had been waiting for my permission. I told myself that was normal. Everyone has automatic thoughts. Therapists talk all about them. Therapists talk about them all the time. Cognitive patterns, learned responses, mental shortcuts. So I ignored it. That's the thing about fear when it arrives politely. You invite it in. I started therapy 6 months after the accident. I won't describe the accident, not because it was unspeakable, but because it doesn't matter in the way people think it does. What mattered wasn't the sound or the damage or the blood. What mattered was what followed, the quiet afterward, the way my mind replayed moments, not as memories, but as unfinished questions. What if I had left earlier? What if I had noticed sooner? What if the thought hadn't distracted me? My therapist's office was small, neutral, designed to feel like it belonged to no one. Beige walls, a plant that looked alive out of obligation, a ticking clock I hated. She asked me about my sleep, my appetite, my habits. Then she asked me about my thoughts. Do you ever feel like your own thoughts aren't yours? She said gently. I laughed. Doesn't everyone? She didn't laugh back. It wasn't until weeks later that I noticed something strange about how the thoughts ended. I'd think, I should call my sister. And immediately, without pause, no, not today. She sounds tired lately. I hadn't spoken to my sister in days. I don't know how she sounded. The thought didn't feel intrusive. It felt considerate, protective, like it was looking out for me. That was the most unsettling part. The tone. Not cruel, not mocking. Familiar. At night, the thoughts became clearer. The city outside my apartment quieted after midnight. Fewer cars, fewer distant voices. Just the low hiss of trees on a wet asphalt and the occasional siren fading into nothing. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, letting my mind drift, and thoughts would arrive gently, one after another, like they were being placed rather than formed. You didn't lock the door. I'd sit up, heart jumping, only to see the bolt firmly in place. You're safe. The next thought would come. You checked. Relief followed. Then conclusion. Why had the reassurance come before I asked for it? I started writing them down. At first, just fragments, little sentences in a notebook I kept by the bed. They didn't look strange on paper, no jagged edges, no obvious madness, just certainty. Statements, not questions. There was a pattern too. The thoughts reacted to my environment. The room was quiet, they lingered longer. When I played music or turned on the TV, they thinned out, like mist burned away by sunlight. That should have comforted me. Instead, it made me afraid of silence. One evening during a power outage, The apartment fell into stillness, so complete it felt artificial. No refrigerator hum, no streetlight buzzing, no distant noise bleeding through the walls. I sat on the couch, candle flickering on the table, shadows stretching and shrinking with every moment of air. And then the thought came, clear, slow. You're listening now. My breath caught. That wasn't a reflection. It wasn't an emotion. It was an observation. I stood up abruptly, heart racing, and paced the room, trying to drown it out with the moment, with sound, with anything. But another thought followed, softer this time. It's easier when you stop resisting. That was when I felt it. Not fear exactly, but a shift. Like like realizing the floor has been tilting for a while and you're only just noticing it now. I told my therapist, not everything, just enough. She listened, nodding, pen scratching lightly against paper. Do the thoughts feel separate from you? She asked. I hesitated. No, I said finally. They feel closer. She paused. How close? I searched for words and found none that felt safe. Like, I said slowly, they know what I'm going to think before I do. Her pen stopped moving. That night, I dreamed without images, just thoughts, layered, intertwined, some familiar, some not, and underneath them all, something steady and patient, like breathing you don't notice until it stops. When I woke up, a sentence was waiting for me, not racing, not urgent, calm. You're starting to understand. My hands were shaking. Understand what? The answer came immediately. That you were never alone in here. I sat up in bed, clenching the notebook and flipping through pages. Some of the sentences weren't in my handwriting. They were neat, careful, and dated years back. Before the accident, before therapy, before I ever started writing them down. That was when the final thought of the night arrived. Not inside my head this time, but pressing against it from all sides. We've always shared this space, and in sleep after that, not really. I lay in bed with my eyes closed, breathing slowly on purpose, pretending rest while my mind stayed painfully alert. I was afraid that if I truly slept, I'd wake up to something rearranged, not in the room, but inside me. The notebook sat on my chest, its weight grounding me. I kept one hand pressed against the cover, thumb resting along the spine, as if it might try to open itself if I let go. I didn't want to read the old entries again. I already knew what they'd say. Morning arrived the way it always does. Reluctantly, grey, filtered through clouds that never quite decide whether to rain. The city woke up around me, elevators hummed, a neighbor's alarm that went unanswered for too long. Somewhere down the block, a delivery truck coughed itself alive. Sound returned, and with it, a fragile sense of safety. The thoughts retreated slightly, still present, but quieter, less confident, like they were waiting. In the shower, with water drumming against tile and steam filled with air, my reflection blurred in the mirror. I watched the outline of my face waver and distort. A thought surfaced. You've always hated mirrors. That one felt familiarly old. Yes, I muttered aloud. My voice sounded strange in the enclosed space. Too loud, too solid. The thought didn't answer. But something inside me settled, satisfied. At the therapist's office, the clock ticked again. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed the sound until it returned. Each tick was a reassurance, proof that time was still moving forward, 1 second at a time, whether I was ready or not. She asked me how my week had been. I told her the truth, trimmed down to something acceptable. I felt like my own thoughts are rehearsed. I said. She raised an eyebrow slightly. Rehearsed? How? Like they have been practiced, I replied. Like someone's already run through them before I get to them. She nodded slowly. Do they feel intrusive? Thought about that? No, I said. They feel helpful. Her pen paused. That worried me. She asked me about my childhood next. That surprised me. We hadn't talked much about it before. Childhood felt irrelevant. A closed chapter, uneventful, quiet, safe. Do you remember having an active imagination? She asked. I shrugged. I guess I was only a child. Talked to myself a lot. Do you ever feel comforted by it? The question landed heavier than it should have. Yes, I said, too quickly. That afternoon, I dug out an old box from the back of my closet. I hadn't opened it since the move, maybe longer. It held things I had carried from the apartment to apartment without ever unpacking fully, relics without purpose. Inside were school notebooks, drawings, a few childhood journals with cracked spines and faded ink. I sat on the floor, legs crossed, sorting through them slowly. The air felt thicker again, not heavy, just attentive. I opened the first journal. The handwriting was unmistakably mine, messy, slanted, too much pressure on the page. I flipped through the entries about nothing: teachers, boredom, weather, travel frustrations. Then I reached a page where the handwriting changed. Not dramatically, subtly, more deliberate, neater. The words read, "It's easier if I help you decide." My breath caught. That sentence didn't scare me. What scared me was the way my chest loosened when I read it. Like recognition, I kept reading. More entries followed in the same careful handwriting, always separate from mine, always responding. You don't need to tell them. They wouldn't understand it. I'll remember this for you. These were the dates. Years apart, always present, always patient. My fingers trembled as I turned the pages. I written about being scared of the dark once. The response, written beneath it, I'll stay awake. I remember that fear suddenly. Not the dark itself, but the relief. Lying in bed, listening to my own breathing, feeling accompanied. I never felt alone as a child. I thought that was luck. The thought came gently then, not abrupt, not intrusive. You found them. I didn't jump. I didn't panic. I closed the journal slowly. Why didn't you tell me? The answer came with the same calm certainty as always. You weren't ready to know. You needed me. That word, needed. My stomach tightened. Needed you for what? I asked aloud. There was a pause, the longest yet, to finish what you started. That night, I dreamed of memories that didn't belong to me. Or maybe they did, once. Scenes without faces, feelings without cause, moments suspended just before decision. Standing at a doorway, unable to move, holding a phone, unsure whether to dial, sitting beside a hospital bed, handing over inches above someone else. In every moment, a sensation followed: relief, as if a choice had been gently taken away. I woke up crying. No sound, just tears slipping sideways into my hair. The thought arrived instantly. It hurt less when you don't choose. That made me sit up. Stop. The word echoed in my head. The reply was immediate, not defensive, not angry. I've stopped before you. I've stopped you before. My heart pounded. What do you want from me? This time, the answer wasn't a sentence. It was a feeling. Belonging. At the next session, I noticed something strange. The therapist finished my sentence. Not metaphorically, literally. I feel like I'm guided, I said. Like this. A presence? She said. We stared at each other. She cleared her throat quickly. Sorry, you hesitated. I nodded slowly with my skin prickled. I hadn't hesitated. On my way home, I missed my stop. Not because I wasn't paying attention, because I didn't feel the urge to get off. The thought came as the doors closed, not yet, and for the first time I obeyed without question. That night, silence returned more easily. I turned off the lights on purpose, sat in the dark, listened. The thoughts gathered, warm and close, not pressing, waiting. And for the first time in my life, I realized something horrifying. When I was quiet enough, when I had stopped resisting. Make sure you're subscribed for the part 2,
which will be uploaded soon.